Since the end of 2025, Minneapolis has been under occupation by federal agents.
We're all human beings here. I don't give a shit who you are, where you came from, what color you are. It doesn't fucking matter. This is wrong.
I'm a filmmaker who lives in San Francisco, but I'm originally from the Midwest, and I have friends in Minneapolis. One of them is Megan. Not only is she a resident there, but she also happens to hold a PhD in media studies. Of course, when I saw what was happening there, I gave her a call, and what she told me felt like info every American should know. So we decided to share these conversations with y'all and hope to get real info out there about what's been happening in Minneapolis and how we might be able to learn how to come together. Join us for the What Now on YouTube. Thanks for joining us on the What Now. This is part 2 of our conversation about the events leading up to and during Operation Metro Surge in Minneapolis. If you're interested in seeing part 1, please go ahead and watch. And thank you so much. January 23rd. It seems like a lot of stuff has been happening, man. Because
I know. Like, I need a deep breath, and we're.
This has only been like a month, and there's so much shit. Every day there seems like there was something, right? So on the 23rd, there was a strike in Minneapolis, and I can't really remember, but was this only Minneapolis doing the strike, or was it everybody?
It was, the Twin Cities area, Minneapolis and St. Paul, certainly. And, I think the more suburban locations kind of participated depending on the neighborhood, but a collective effort of both Minneapolis and St. Paul.
Okay. So I have a clip about this.
All right, we're taking a live look out at the ICE out of Minnesota, Truth and Freedom March. This comes amid high tensions between federal agents and Minnesota neighbors after the killing of Renee Good and the detainment of a 5-year-old boy. I want to bring in CBS News correspondent Lana Zach, who's joining us live from Minneapolis. Lana, what are we seeing in the city right now? I know it's very cold there as well.
Absolutely, Liz. Weather is a big story right now, and with temperatures at -8 and a low of -20. And that's not even the feel-like temperature. It is really a remarkable example of how people are feeling here in the Twin Cities, that thousands came out today and braved the cold, marching through the street to Target Center. And that is where they are currently located for this event, this protest against ICE agents. It's going to last about an hour. We're going to hear what speakers have to say, and watching all of that intently, especially as the schism between the federal government and the state and local government just continues to widen.
10-cent word.
For that case of a 5-year-old boy who was detained and sent to Texas.
It's derived from the papal schisms.
The accounts of eyewitnesses who
like
were
the
there
1300s.
on the ground differ very much from what we're hearing officially from the Department of Homeland Security. So we are digging into all of those details, but suffice it to say, Liz, when it comes to just taking the temperature here, people are pretty upset.
Yes, I can imagine so. Well, Zach, thank you so much.
Come up with that on your own, all by yourself? Sorry, I'm sad.
No, it's good. It reminds me of, there's always this saying about like, you don't attack cold people in the winter or whatever. I mean,
don't come to the Viking Nation in the middle of the winter.
Yeah. And then the next kind of event, this was something that was also very
one thing I'd like to point out, because the clip, oddly enough, talked more about the weather than the largest general strike in close to 80 or 90 years in the United States. And, a lot of businesses closed. So many, all my neighborhood restaurants, the whole Central Avenue corridor was shut down. And it was really a group effort. Like, the Latino restaurants all closed, even though they've been struggling. The Somali businesses, many of them participated as well. And there was kind of a discussion about it being a conscious community effort across varying groups of individuals, and that this is a stand in solidarity of all the neighbors, sort of against ICE, and that the economic component is equally as important as the violent component.
So the next kind of thing that happened was something that made ripples outside of Minneapolis too, which was that a young boy, I think he was 5 years old, right? 5. Liam Ramos
Yep,
was taken by ICE, and there's a very famous photo of him with the bunny ears, and I think that this was a moment for people outside of Minneapolis to say, like, what the hell is going on, and why are children being affected by this? I mean, we had one thing that we didn't have on this list, but and maybe is something that people outside of Minneapolis didn't know that much, but there was other instances of attacks happening at schools. I think there was one that was right after Renee Good that was pretty publicized because it was filmed, and they claimed that somebody was running from them, and then they to the school, and that's why they were at the school. But there's video of them deploying tear gas and hurting people.
3 hours after, well, we'll call it 5 hours after Renee Good was murdered. Same day. Exact same day.
So
a mile away from where that happened.
I think that there's a lot of people that, like, they draw the line at kids. I mean, I would hope.
Yeah.
And I think that the Liam Ramos situation really engaged certain people who maybe weren't as engaged before. So we have a clip here.
Tonight, despite the brutal cold, a massive crowd of anti-ICE protesters flooding downtown Minneapolis. It's part of today's statewide boycott on work, school, and shopping.
What is wrong with you? What is wrong with you that you would do that to a child?
This as we learn new details about the case of 5-year-old Liam Ramos and his father, Adrian Conejo Arias. New video showing ICE officers escorting the preschooler into a black SUV.
Where's your humanity? That's a kid!
DHS says officers were targeting the father, who was here illegally and had a deportation order, though a family attorney says he came lawfully and had applied for asylum. DHS tonight saying it has no record of an asylum claim, adding Arias ran from officers, abandoning his son, and Liam's mother refused to take custody.
Over those past 4 years, hundreds of thousands of children were trafficked across that border. We're definitely the experts at dealing with children, unfortunately.
We pressed Border Patrol Commander Gregory Bavino, who stressed Liam and his father are together in a federal facility.
We still have people saying that they're outraged at the idea of little kids being held in custody at all. So what do you say to those people, and what kinds of conditions are young children being held in?
As far as that family has not been separated, that child is in the least restrictive setting possible.
Tonight, a Texas congressman releasing video of the ICE facility where they're being held, showing libraries, schools, and basketball courts. All as a Minneapolis city councilman now says this 2-year-old named Chloe is in ICE custody after her father was arrested as the pair were driving home from the grocery store.
Maggie, let's pick it up right there. The Department of Homeland Security is now responding to this new case.
Yeah, Tom, that's right. DHS saying Chloe's father was indeed their target, that he was in the country illegally, and they add her mother refused to take custody, and that the toddler is now with her father in a federal facility. Tom.
Maggie Vespa for us tonight. We thank you for watching, and remember.
Yeah. So terrible. Yeah, there's not much that you could say about that. It's just like terrible. And one thing that I found interesting is the right-wing rhetoric was like the father left him, but like they were using him as bait. So I just don't know how you could
No.
argue and make any sort of argument that that's okay.
No, and the mother was begging for him to be let in the house, but the only thing she refused to do was go outside because she understood what was going on.
I mean, especially, I guess, these people who are kind of like, just comply.
Mm-hmm.
You just saw people being murdered. So why would you go with that?
Well, and even after they complied, I mean, think about that. Like Renee Good complied. She was in the process of complying. Put it that way.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
So then we get to the arrests of those people from the church.
We're getting an update on how the prominent Minneapolis civil rights attorney, activist, and ordained minister, Nakima Levy-Armstrong, and 2 others were arrested on federal charges for their role in peacefully protesting inside a St. Paul church where one of the pastors, David Easterwood, also leads the local ICE field office in the Twin Cities area.
David Easterwood is a pastor here. He is also the director of the field office for ICE in St. Paul. So someone who claims to worship God, teaching people in this church about God, is out there overseeing ICE agents.
The activists involved in the protests now face charges under the FACE Act. That's the Freedom of Access to Clinic Entrances Act, a law written to protect abortion clinics. Attorney General Pam Bondi announced Levy-Armstrong's arrest. Then the White House posted an AI-generated image to make it appear Levy-Armstrong was crying after arrest. The Justice Department also attempted to bring charges against the journalist and former CNN anchor Don Lemon, who covered the church protests, but a federal magistrate judge rejected the request.
And I guess just to give an update on this, they've all been released. I believe Don Lemon and the other journalist are still like legally dealing with it, but they're no longer in jail.
No, and they were released within a couple of days, I think, and then have had at least one hearing since then. And are not like quote unquote in custody, but you're right, they're still going through legal steps with that case.
So, and there's tons of stuff online from Don Lemon because he's such an online figure, where he's talking about it. There's you can check out his YouTube channel where he's talking at length about it. But he seems pretty resolute to fight it. So
yeah, and so does Georgia Fort, is the independent local journalist that was also arrested.
Yeah,
and she's also fighting it.
Yeah, if you have any interest in like what's happening in Minneapolis, you should follow Georgia Fort on Instagram. She's a local journalist and who has been reporting there for a long time, and so she's a good follow too. So then comes like, one of the biggest bombs.
The day after the strike, Yeah,
it can't happen fast enough, right? So on the 24th, Alex Preddy was murdered. And I remember that morning I woke up and it was like everywhere. And for good reason. And I think everybody was kind of like, again? What the fuck? So I have a video. This may be,
this is an ouchy one. This is a tough video.
Trigger warning on this.
And killed by federal agents. We're following the very latest on this developing situation right here on KARE 11 and streaming on KARE 11 Plus. So thank you for joining us, everyone. I'm Morgan Wolf.
And I'm Rena Sargentopoulos. Protesters have been at the scene since the shooting was first reported
this morning.
And this happened exactly right here around 9 a.m. near the intersection of Nicollet Avenue and 26th Street in Minneapolis. This is the Whittier neighborhood along Each Street that many of you might recognize.
We do have multiple crews covering the developing situation right now. We are going to start with Lou Raguse, who is in the newsroom now, with more on what led up to the deadly shooting. Lou?
Rena and Morgan, Alex Pretty was a 37-year-old Minneapolis man who was in the vicinity of 26th Street and Nicollet Avenue where ICE agents were present. One bystander video seems to show Pretty filming in the middle of the street, then trying to pick up a woman who got pushed down. From there, Pretty gets sprayed by an agent, and another video then shows a group of agents restraining Pretty, then an agent firing a number of shots. Later, Homeland Security officials released a photo of a handgun along with 2 magazines they say Pretty had on him. Now, here's where the story from federal officials differs from the many video angles that we have seen. In their words, Pretty approached with a gun and they attempted to disarm him, leading to the shooting. Well, Minneapolis Chief Brian O'Hara told us that Pretty had a license to carry a gun. We've seen no video that shows him pull out his gun or reach for his gun, and some video even suggests that one agent removed a gun prior to the shooting. The Department of Homeland Security, HSI, is leading the investigation and has shut out state use of force investigators. What's remarkable about that is that according to the BCA, they had a search warrant signed by a judge to get into the public area where the shooting happened, but federal agents still turned them away. Our Kent Erdahl will have more on that in just a little bit.
That morning was very difficult here because, that's about 3 weeks after Renee Good's murdered. There's been another, the shooting in North Minneapolis. So, and then, everyone was kind of still celebrating the strike. Those are some of the biggest demonstrations that the city's seen in years. We felt like maybe there would be a little bit of the turning of the tide and some national interest would grow surrounding the efforts Minneapolis was making. And, I guess they certainly did grow, but just in the wrong way. And attention kind of was really focused that morning on Minneapolis. But I actually saw a citizen alert because I have it on my phone. And it said man shot and it gave the location. And I was like, those bleepity bleeps, I hope they didn't do it again, And within 15 minutes of that, I'm on Instagram checking things out. And sure enough, I saw the execution style video in front of Glam Doll Donuts in a place where I have spent a ton of time. I lived in South Minneapolis for a long time and have biked and walked through there and, just spent a lot of time in that neighborhood. And I threw up, to be perfectly honest. I think by the moment of Alex Pretty, my body was starting to very much show signs of just revolt and kind of that was very difficult. It was a very difficult morning. It hit really hard. One thing we haven't mentioned, but the National Guard had been on standby for, I think, since Renee Good or shortly after that. And one thing people here were worried about is Walz going to call up the National Guard because, which he ultimately did end up doing. But that changes the game with the federal level. And then, I packed a bag and was like, okay, is this it? Is this the moment where the Insurrection Act and the Minnesota National Guard come to some kind of head? And luckily it wasn't that. And the bag has been unpacked, but it took a while.
Yeah.
That was a rough day. That was a very difficult moment for the city.
Yeah. I think you'd be hard pressed to find someone who didn't see the videos of the vigils and people in Minneapolis talking about it, and or the video of him when he was honoring one of his patients who had died and not cry about it. And I think that the more that the other angles came out too, and it became clearer exactly what went down, and that in the moment he was helping someone else, you know, and I have to give a lot of credit to his family and his parents that they're not gonna just let this get swept under the rug, and they were determined to stand up and say, "That's not our son is not a domestic terrorist, um, and we're not gonna let you get away with just murdering him in the street, and no, we're not just gonna, like, move on." So I mean, I I think everybody who has seen this video or knew anything about Alex Preddy supports them, and I hope that people stay engaged enough to fight for that, for both of them, because I do feel like also sometimes Renee Good, because it happened first, and maybe a bevy of other reasons, kind of gets forgotten about in the mix, but I hope that both of them get justice, because so far there's been no justice at all.
No, and none. And I think Minnesota has sued in a couple different ways to try and get the sort of evidence and the jurisdictional like leverage to be able to do an investigation of any kind. And those requests or those lawsuits have been denied twice. So, I think it's going to be kind of up to a lot of the public to keep it alive and to keep making demands. So hopefully at some point in the future, we can have more of a formal investigation into both individuals.
I know I keep telling myself that maybe after this administration, but that feels like a long time to wait.
Yeah, it does. And it also feels it's like too late, it feels like too little too late, I think, because the families are grieving now, the city is grieving now, the nation is grieving now, and the incidences are still happening. So
I don't know if I'd call it good news, but maybe news that seems like it was like moving in the right direction. I think because of the level of outrage and the bad press that this was getting, they decided to tell Bovino,
GTFO.
GTFO, yeah.
GTFO, no.
GTFO, yeah. So I do have a little video of our friend Greg Bovino.
Is he wearing the trench coat in this one?
I don't remember if he's or not in this.
At the White House, Ed, we have some brand new reporting from our colleague Camila Montoya Galvez about the status of Customs and Border Patrol Chief Greg Bovino. What do we know?
We can report now. CBS News has learned that Bovino is departing Minneapolis imminently, as are many other CBP agents, and Bovino at least has been relieved of his command in Minneapolis. He remains in charge of operations across the country. The White House said as much earlier today, but when directly asked whether he would be leaving Minneapolis or relieved of his duties there, they wouldn't directly get into that. Now we have learned, in fact, that is happening. So there perhaps is some accountability for what has happened over the weekend. We had the call this morning between the president and Governor Walz after weeks of nationwide cross-country finger-pointing at each other over this. They finally spoken, and it appears now it's led to some progress. Bovino will be leaving. Other CBP officers will be leaving. Doesn't mean Immigrations and Customs Enforcement, which, remember, had been in the lead here trying to root out those undocumented immigrants that they were pursuing. But operations would continue in that regard. And now we have Tom Homan, who is ostensibly known as the White House border czar, going into Minneapolis to not only oversee operations when it comes to those ongoing immigration operations, but then the broader Trump administration goal of rooting out alleged fraud in blue states, beginning with Minnesota. After weeks of renewed scrutiny, thanks to conservative commentators online, exposing concerns about daycare centers and other ways that state funding has gone out through the federal government's grants and payments to the state that will continue with Homan overseeing it all.
So I think that this was a moment where it felt like there was maybe a victory, but it also not really, because I don't know. I felt like the people outside of Minneapolis felt like a sigh of relief, like, oh, okay, he's leaving. That must mean like it's going to chill out. But I personally felt skeptical that this was going to lead anywhere. So maybe you want to talk about what it was like there.
Yeah, and I think, maybe to I think anyone who'd really been following along was probably, like you, skeptical. And I think that that kind of shows, if you do get like sort of tapped in and tuned in and hear the more independent on the ground reports, it's a lot harder to take in the official narrative. Here, I think, given a lot of promises made by both the governor and the Minneapolis mayor, kind of in the lead up to Renee Good and right after Renee Good, everyone here was basically like, I'll believe it when I see it. I would say nothing changed on the ground, nothing changed in the mutual aid networks, the attitudes, and really in any capacity of the folks out there doing the work. Or
So
the immigrant neighbors. Nobody's like, okay, cool, he's gone, I'm going outside. That did not happen.
yeah, and I kind of remember talking to you like right when this happened, and it was in the time since, it's also like it's gotten worse.
Yeah.
New
It has.
tactics, new ways of getting into people and grabbing them, and also a drop off in attention from the rest of the country, because I think everybody thought that this meant the end.
Yeah, and kind of around when Bovino left, I would say things definitely became more covert in their tactics. We saw them using a lot more Minnesota license plates as opposed to the out-of-state license plates we'd been seeing before. Officials started putting like pride stickers on the cars, or kind of traditionally leftist, progressive, like bumper stickers, banners, like signs, things like that. They started doing more plain clothes. I noticed walking, 4 blocks that way and probably 10 blocks that way, day to day, that I would see ops on the sidewalk with like plain clothes, backpacks, shoes looking a little too new, or like, you could just tell they're not from Northeast Minneapolis. So we saw more of that. And also, that is too, the thing, sort of the patrolling of schools didn't really stop either. And they kind of, I heard reports of them using a Minneapolis public schools marked van around that time. Things like that. So it did not get worse. It did not get better really in any way. We actually saw kind of increased presence, simply with more covert tactics attached.
So then on February 1st, Liam gets released. There had been some news about how he had been sick in detention, and in the detention center, which I believe was in
Dilley, Texas.
Yeah, there had
Dilley.
the people in prison there were protesting. So he's been released, and the federal government is still saying that they want to pursue deporting him and his father, and saying that their asylum claim is not legit. But given the media attention that he's gotten, he has lawyers, I'm assuming, and support. And so we'll see what happens. On February 12th, which was a little over a week ago, Homan announced that the surge would be winding down, which again, I think for most people feels like relief, right? Like this is over and we can chill now. And I actually have him making the announcement.
And success that has been made arresting public safety threats and other priorities since this search operation began, as well as the unprecedented levels of coordination we have obtained from state officials and local law enforcement. I have proposed, and President Trump has concurred, that this surge operation conclude.
So basically, he's saying they're going to pull the ICE agents out of there in a tiered manner over the next couple weeks. We must be reaching the end of that time. And the people of Minneapolis are saying, we'll believe it when we see it.
Yeah. And I think, one thing we've seen is some agents have left, I believe. And I think there have been fewer incidents. Certainly, again, there's just changing tactics where the things they're doing now, the other day, they had a female ICE agent pose with her broken down car. And when two men of color stopped to help her, they arrested them. So we're kind of transitioning to even more sort of covert ops, and we're also seeing them move out into the second and third ring suburbs and into western Wisconsin, Rochester, Mankato.
So I think this is actually a really good segue to talk about, number one, at the time of recording this is as far as that story goes right now. And so by the time somebody watches this, things could change.
It's true. They've been changing. Hopefully for the better. Let's go.
Yeah, hopefully for the better. But also that with DHS possibly leaving Minneapolis, that's kind of partially what this I don't know what we want to call it, podcast, conversation, whatever, is about, is that we're hoping that after we've done this big lay of the land about what's happened so far, that in subsequent episodes of this we can give information that are things that all Americans should know, because once DHS is out of Minneapolis, that means they're going to go to somewhere else.
Yeah. And I think, from what Minneapolis can provide sort of an unfortunate but illustrative arc, right, of kind of how things have evolved, what some of the tactics are, kind of how we've been impacted, the networks that have helped, and what has proven sort of most effective at combating these types of occupations. So yeah, hopefully they could go. I'm ready for that to happen. I don't want to see them go anywhere else, but they could definitely leave here.
Yeah, I really hope that they do go, for your guys' sake and for all of our sakes.
Yeah.
But I have to say, as a person who doesn't live there, that I've been moved and inspired and proud to be Americans with Minnesotans, because you guys have really held it down, and it's been impressive at how long you guys have been able to stay engaged and not given up. And despite all of these roadblocks and tragedies and terrible things that have happened during this 2 months or longer, you guys have shown perseverance, and it worked. I mean, the fact that they're thinking about even thinking about leaving, or that they have to change their tactics, or any of those things, means it's working. That means you guys did it. And I know, just to kind of wrap up this timeline, is like, now the governor and your mayor are saying once you're out, you also need to pay for what you did, and that there's going to need to be a significant time of healing there. And I think that that's real. And so, but from the rest of America, I think that we want to give you a big thank you.
Thank you for that. Yeah, that acknowledgement. And yeah, it's we'll take it.
Yeah, you should. you guys worked for it. I mean,
we'll take it.
I don't know if this could have gone this way in anywhere else. And I think, in future episodes, I think that it would be good to dive into why Minneapolis and the history. But I think the government thought that they could come fuck with you guys, and it was a little, to use their own terminology, fuck around and find out.
Yeah. I think they didn't do their research. They did not understand the humans of Minneapolis.
No.
And just, one thing I'll say about here is, to the extent that the immigrant communities are very ingrained in the city, and a lot of the communities have deep roots here. They're second, third, fourth generation U.S. citizens and Minneapolis residents, and it's kind of, they're my neighbors. God damn it. Right? Like, so yeah, we're happy. I think in some ways it's fortunate that Minneapolis got to set the example, because we had a little practice, and other places have too, but don't come here in the winter. Why are you doing that? What the hell?
I know. It's like, dude, actually, speaking of, before we go, the one thing that I think that we should watch just for fun is,
ooh, you got some slip and falls.
Yeah. You knew.
This was a high point for many Minneapolitans. This was really like,
yes,
this was up there for us.
Oh, slow-mo even. Oh yeah. It just scratches some kind of itch, you know what I mean?
Oh, it does. It does. And again, replay.
Falling down.
Boom. I saw one fall down in the middle of Central Avenue. It was hilarious.
Like, you're right. Don't come here in the winter. And the funny thing about it too is that Minnesota nice thing is real, right? And it's like, if you slip when you're in Minneapolis, they'll help you.
Oh yeah.
Normally.
Yeah. Someone will help
But in
you
this
up
case,
and ask if you're okay.
they were just observing.
And pointing and laughing.
Yeah.
But there's are you familiar? Well, you're familiar with the Midwest, but there's the Minnesota Shuffle. Like, you learn from a very young age, like as a child, how to walk like a penguin on the ice, so this doesn't happen to you.
Or you get yourself those spikes on
the yak
boots.
tracks.
Yeah.
Or whatever
Yeah. And you don't walk on the ice part, you walk on the snow part.
No, you walk in the road.
Yeah. I guess we have more to come.
There's lots more to talk about.
Yeah,
Lots
going
more.
forward, it's probably going to be a lot more looking forward rather than looking back. But we kind of felt like we needed to give the lay of the land of what had happened up until this point, for people who maybe weren't as tuned in or didn't know almost everybody, like I said, probably knows about Renee Good and Alex Preddy, but they didn't know the lead up and what had happened in between, and then what's happened since. And there's been a pretty significant drop off, I think, in people being engaged, and it's mostly, it's also the issues of there's so much shit going on with tons of different things. And I think the algorithms have pushed the kind of ongoing news about Minneapolis down, probably for numerous reasons. So we're just trying to get the word out and trying to get people to stay engaged and to be able to give people workable things that they can use in their own communities, and to stay safe, and to keep the peace. So
Absolutely.
yeah. So thanks for tuning into us. We'll be back. Thanks. Thank you so much for being a part of our conversations here on the What Now. Please follow us on YouTube, like and subscribe, and we're also on Instagram. So we really look forward to engaging in more conversations with you. Thank you so much.